Hi there, Mike Wolf here. Welcome to another edition of Entrepreneurs Making a Difference, where we interview entrepreneurs from all over the globe in hopes that they'll collaborate and do bigger and better things together. And we've got speaking of doing some great things together, we've got Sarah Anderson and her mother, TJ Anderson, on the interview with us today. And I'm going to read their bio here. Sarah is an 11-year-old girl who lives in Okotoks, Alberta, which is just south of Calgary, where I live, and loves basketball, sewing, art, playing piano, and reading. She also loves helping people and animals, and when the floods of southern Alberta occurred in June of 2013, she knew she wanted to do something to help the kids that she saw displaced from their homes to feel better. So the flood itself is classified as the worst natural disaster in Canadian history, with 32 states of local emergency being declared. Over 100,000 people were displaced out of their homes, and 2,200 Canadian Forces troops were deployed to help flooded areas. The total damages caused by the raging waters is estimated to exceed $5 billion. So how could one little girl make a dent on that? Well, all Sarah knew was that she saw sad children, and her focus was to make them smile. As a sewing student, she set out to make a doll for kids affected in her area, and she soon wanted to make a doll for all kids affected. She employed the help of her mom to sew more dolls, but it soon became evident that at 2+ hours a doll, things needed to be sped up. At that point, her mom found a company that could replicate Sarah's design ideas for both a girl and a boy doll. Sarah called the dolls Alberta Strong Dolls to symbolize the strength and perseverance that prevailed amongst Albertans in the wake of the flood. So the Alberta Strong Doll campaign for children affected by the flood began, and we have Sarah here to tell us more about her campaign. So welcome to both of you to the show.
Well, thanks for having us, Mike. We're pretty excited to be here. And yeah, Sarah has had quite the year trying to get these dolls sponsored and get them out to kids shortly here for the 1-year anniversary of the flood.
Yeah, first I want to congratulate you on at such a young age, wanting to give back and help other people, and it's just incredible what you've done. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. It's kind of fitting that you're here today because actually right now as we speak, I just heard that there's a state of emergency been called down in Lethbridge, which for those of you not from this area, it's south of Calgary, a couple of hour drive from here, and they're in a state of emergency, and places like High River are on watch right now. So it's very fitting to have you here today.
Well, it certainly is scary, listening to the news, and we're getting deja vu from a year ago. And I think we're 3 or 4 days away from the actual 1-year anniversary of the devastating flood last year. So it's kind of timely, and we're watching the rains come down and thinking, oh boy, but there was some precautions taken this year, so hopefully we won't have quite, hardly at all the damage that we had last year.
Yeah, well, exactly. And yeah, it is going to be the anniversary, and hopefully we don't have a repeat. And I mean, that was what we thought was a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, and now maybe that's not the case, and I hope it doesn't turn into that.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, I want to ask you, what inspired you? I know you said you're a sewing student. What inspired you to get started making these dolls? That was a huge project, and once again, I'm very proud of you for doing that.
Well, a long time ago, I did make a doll, and I was pretty proud of myself. And then when the flood happened, I felt really bad, so I thought, why don't I make another dozen of these dolls and hand them out?
Can you lift them up? I know you have some of them there with you. Can you show people what they look like?
Yeah. I wanted to make their faces really cute, and my mom has a friend who has a daughter named Chelsea, and I wanted to use her eyes, and she drew the eyes, and I gave them cowboy boots to represent Alberta. And I made up the saying, keep calm and Alberta strong, so I put Alberta strong on their t-shirt.
I love that. Just if you don't mind holding them up, let people see what those look like. Oh, and I'll just get you to say something. As soon as you say something, I'll click to your screen. So.
Well, this one is the boy or the girl here, and she's got a little skirt on with cowboy boots. And then the boy, of course, has blue jeans with cowboy boots and the same t-shirts. They share the same t-shirts, and they've got the big anime eyes that kids love so much. Sarah's into the anime eyes dolls. So she designed this, and we had to find a supplier that could duplicate her design, because it soon became apparent that sewing all these dolls herself was just going to be an unreachable task, and we didn't want to squash her idea of giving a doll to all the kids affected by the flood, so we decided just to get them mass-produced.
Yeah, well, they look phenomenal. Do they have names?
No, not yet.
Well, I think You had kind of tentatively called, I would like to call this one Sarah and this one Dean, because she's gone with the little name of Sarah Dean Dolls because of her middle name is Dean. So we're kind of going with that right now.
Ah, very cool. So I know that you two did a video and you interviewed some of the children affected by the flood. How did you how did that come about, and how did you find some of these people to interview, and how did that all happen?
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah. You can talk about that.
Oh yeah, my mom's Mrs. Calgary, so she thought it'd be nice to interview all the kids.
So, okay, I'll elaborate on that. What we did last year was have a fundraiser for kids affected by the flood, and the focus was to give them a gift certificate at Christmas to go shopping. A lot of the families that we know, and so many that we don't know, were struggling with necessities. So not even being able to afford a turkey or a Christmas tree at Christmas. So the gift card idea was to basically give them a fun way, like go buy something frivolous, a present for yourself at Christmas. So we had a fundraiser, and in order to raise money for the children, we decided to do a video. And of course, we know so many people affected that they were graciously willing to speak to us on video. And it's often difficult to speak of such a tragedy, but these children were very brave, and they came forward and they told their story. And we videotaped it and used it as a way to raise funds and raise some money then for the kids at Christmas. And that video is quite heartwarming and touching. It's on the web right now.
Yeah, and so how did it feel to know that you made a difference in so many different people's lives? How does that feel for you?
That feels really good.
It feels fantastic, but you know what, Mike? You always feel like you fall short. Like the devastation was so horrendous, and as you know, living here, there's no way that you can help everybody. And you just got to do what you can. I felt inadequate. I think, we still feel inadequate because we just can't reach everybody. But, you try what you can do, and if you can put a smile on at least one or two or three or a couple hundred, that's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody always kind of downplays what they've done. And I think, obviously, you had a big impact. And even if it changed one person's life, in my mind, it was all worth it. And maybe that person pays it forward and changes who knows how many people's lives after that. So how many of these dolls did you make and get out there?
We got 1,800 ordered.
Wow, 1,800. That's a lot of dolls. Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, we have a huge goal, and we haven't quite reached that goal in terms of sponsorships for dolls. So we're still hoping, but we'll be giving out hundreds of dolls next week that have already been sponsored by very generous people of the public and companies as well. And next week we'll be going to 2 schools so Sarah can fulfill her dream of just handing out these dolls and seeing all these happy kids.
Yeah, well, I know next week you're handing out, hundreds of dolls. And what do you think that's going to feel like, Sarah, when you get to hand those all out next week?
Well, I've been waiting for this for a long time, so it's probably going to feel really good.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, who are some of the? I don't know if you want to mention some of the sponsors that you've had so far. Who's sponsored so far for these dolls?
Well, part of our sponsorship came from the fundraiser that we had because we had people from that sponsor dolls. So we had Pete the plumber from Calgary sponsor that event. He was a big sponsor. And we've had the Rotary Club of Okotoks sponsor quite a few numbers of dolls as well. So they stepped up. Sarah did a fabulous presentation herself to the Rotary Club. She got up in front of about 25 adults and did a presentation. It's quite fantastic.
Wow, good for you.
Yes, we've had various different companies step up, and Ken Corral Cleaners stepped up out of High River and donated some dolls as well. And there's just so many people. We've had Fair Canada Engineering. So there's quite a few people and individuals as well that have just called us up and said, I'll sponsor 2 or 3 dolls. I want to sponsor them in the name of my children or in the name of my grandchildren. And that's certainly doable because every doll that Sarah will give away will actually have the name of the person who sponsored it on the gift tag.
Wow, that's a great win-win. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're very excited.
Yeah, so these dolls, obviously, you could change the clothing and you can repurpose it for, hopefully, hope there's not a lot of natural disasters, but you can repurpose it for, anything that would happen to come up, or even, wouldn't necessarily have to be a disaster, but they could be repurposed for other uses.
Well, I certainly think so, Mike. If we don't get all the dolls sponsored, they can certainly be used or just purchased by the public if they want an Alberta Strong doll. I know we've had many requests from people just to buy them; they just want them instead of sponsoring. or a dual purpose. They want to sponsor and purchase. But they certainly could be used for other events or other things as well. And, you know, the Alberta Strong thought, or the Alberta Strong, you know, the whole concept behind that is certainly a versatile one. And I think Albertans are pretty resilient and strong, so that we could probably use these dolls in many ways.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you know, last year I think Alberta really, I just saw people getting together, and I wasn't actually in the country at the time, but I was watching it from afar, and of course it made CNN and it made the media, and a lot of people were talking about it, and I was impressed with how Calgarians and you know, people in Alberta in general came together and pulled through, and there were a lot of acts of kindness and giving, and you know, when I heard what you were doing, I just thought that was just phenomenal. I knew I had to interview you guys and get you on here. But one of the questions I have for you again, Sarah, is I know that your mother just mentioned that you were speaking in front of a bunch of adults. And when I was 11, I would have been terrified to do that. What was that like for you? Were you scared?
Yeah, I was terrified. But I got up there, and I think I did pretty good, so I'm proud.
Oh, wow. I bet you did phenomenal. So good for you for being able to step out of your comfort zone and do that, because a lot of adults are scared to do that, let alone kids.
Well, she certainly has grown a lot this year, and I don't know if she realized the extent of her desire here to promote these dolls and get them out, because she certainly had to step out of her comfort zone. She's actually my shy child, so she's doing well, and she's fantastic at speaking and learned some great life lessons. And I'm just so happy that she could bring her vision to fruition and now finish it off next week with handing out the dolls.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So who were some of, this is going out to both of you, who were some of the influences, and you know, did you have somebody who inspired you to do bigger and better things? Was there one particular book or maybe a person that you met, or?
Wow, you go first.
My influence is probably my mom, because she was Mrs. Calgary and she fundraised, and it just really gave me a lot of hope. So yeah, it's probably her.
Aw.
Yeah, great. Well, that's always good. It's a good thing you said that, or you'd be in really big trouble after this interview.
Oh yeah, I would pinch her if she didn't say that, perhaps. No, well, that's really sweet. You know, again, you just try hard to show your kids that they can do more. You know, it was because of these kids that I even tried out to be Mrs. Calgary. It really wasn't an option for me, and somebody sent me a link and said you should really look at this position, because it's just basically based on fundraising and charity work. And it was a coincidence that I had just taken them to a Carrie Underwood concert at the Saddle Dome, and we came out of that concert, and they didn't talk about how spectacular the show was. They talked about nonstop about the homeless person that they saw outside the Saddle Dome with a cardboard sign saying, "Please help me," and they just couldn't get over the fact that we couldn't take him home with us, and that we couldn't help him in some way more than just giving him some cash. You know, so you know, they obviously had never seen that before, and it touched them so much that I realized that, you know, it's something that they need to see. They need to see firsthand instead of from arm's length about how to help people and really get out there and get your hands dirty.
Yeah, well, that's phenomenal, and I think you're obviously leading by example, and you're all doing great things, which is just awesome. Was it you, Sarah, that wrote that? I read a book that I know, TJ, you were involved in. Was it Sarah that wrote that book with you?
Oh, the children's book.
Yeah.
So Mike, thanks, Mike. Well, you know, that book was, it kind of came about through myself and my two daughters, so Sarah and her sister, and I was asked to be a guest reader at their school, and so a guest celebrity reader, and a celebrity reader often takes in a book that's related to their occupation or to what their passion is, and reads it to the children and gives them the message of the book. And I was having trouble coming up with just one book that kind of talked about what my passion is, which is just basically decide what you want to do and just do it, because I do so many things. If I want to do something, I just decide, and it's kind of done. It's a joke in our house that if something doesn't get done around here, that mom just didn't decide yet that it was going to get done. Yeah. So we sat down, and we only had a weekend, and I kind of wrote up the rough outline for that book, and the girls helped me with editing it and stuff, and they were a part of the book. There's some real life stories in there, and they were the models for the artwork. So I basically had a weekend. I did some watercolor art on this book to try to get it put together for Monday morning reading, And the girls were the models, and we kind of worked together on this book and then read it to the school the next day. It was a big smashing hit, and it really wasn't until about 7 or 8 months later, when I was asked to read it again, I was called back to more schools to read this book, that I decided that perhaps I should get it in a published version. And so that's the book that you read, and we had the book just basically photographed and published.
Wow, good for you. What's the book called, and where can people is that available, like on at bookstores or Amazon? Or?
It's not available yet at bookstores. I do have copies. It's something that's kind of a work in progress. I'm looking for maybe an actual publisher rather than a self-publishing. Of course, I'd be willing to talk to people. They can email me at tj@tjanderson.ca. And, for sure we can get a copy to them. It's called The Deciding Power, and it's all about using your power of decision to basically decide your successes or unsuccesses in life. And it just talks to children and makes them realize how powerful that their thoughts really are in terms of how successful they're going to be. And I've had some great feedback. I've had somebody gave it to a foster child, and apparently he just really took to it. And it's really turned his life around. I haven't met this young boy, but he's really using his deciding power to do great things. So I think it's touching a lot of great people, and it certainly has helped out in our family. I didn't realize it would be a message that really took off, but we always talk about using your deciding power, and the kids kind of have done that with their accomplishments as well.
Yeah, well, actually, I happen to find my the copy of it here, and so I can show it. There we go. I'm prepared for every situation. So it is a phenomenal book, and y'all did a great job on it. So go back to the dolls for a minute. Where do you see that going? Where do you think you're going to take that in the future?
Where do you see it going, Sarah?
I don't know. I think we're planning on selling them after, and I think they might be a big hit if lots of people like them.
Yeah, if they're not.
I know it'll be a big hit. That goes without saying.
Well, they're already a big hit, but if they're not all sponsored, they will be for sale, and our goal is certainly not to make a profit from the dolls. Any proceeds that are over and above what expenses that we've had to produce them will go to charities that are helping out with flood relief. So we're very excited about that. It will continue to help with flood relief. It's an ongoing problem, as you know. It's a year later, but really there's so many people that are even now not even back in their homes. So there's still need for finances, and we certainly haven't forgot about those people even 1 year later. And we'll be doing that. Of course, as you mentioned, the whole concept of Alberta Strong could be used in other ways. What those ways are, I don't know. I think, it's always good to think big and to make big goals. And perhaps we need to think more on that and how we can do that. But for now, we're just going to get over the hurdle of getting these dolls sponsored and getting them out to the kids that we promised them to. And if we can get, the more sponsors, the better. We've got 1 week until we give out the dolls. And, there's 1 week now for the public or companies to just finish off the sponsorship program. And next week, if we get more sponsors, and even more kids will be getting dolls handed to them by Sarah.
Yeah, well, that's great. So what does this cost to sponsor a doll?
It costs $16.
Well, it's $15.99, Mike, but that price was set before the penny disappeared. So
that's right, exactly. No more Canadian pennies for our American viewers. That's right.
That's right. We have no more pennies. So it's $15.99 on the website. So you save a penny if you do it online. If you purchase directly through Sarah, then it's $16.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well, that sounds great. Well, I'm going to definitely, we'll talk about it after, but I'd definitely like to sponsor some dolls with you, and so that will help you for next week. You'll have some more dolls to give out.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
My pleasure. It's a great cause. So, how do people get a hold of you if they want to also sponsor some dolls?
Sure. Well, they can go to the website. Sarah knows the website.
Yeah. It's albertastrongdolls.com.
Yeah. So albertastrongdolls.com is the charity funding site that has kindly let us use their site to gain those sponsorships. And they could email Sarah too. So her email is Sarah with an H at albertastrongdolls.com.
Well, that's great. Anything else you want to say, Sarah? You're so quiet over there. I know you're the shy one, so I'm trying to get you to speak.
I don't know what else to say.
This is easy compared to getting on stage and talking in front of a bunch of adults. That's for sure.
It is. It is. It's just one computer screen for us. So I think, well, Sarah wants to know what your favorite ice cream flavor is, I think, Mike.
Oh boy.
I heard,
I'm
we
just
heard something about that.
Yeah, it's a rumor that's going around that I happen to like ice cream, and it's partially true. So my favorite kind is chocolate cherry love blizzards at Dairy Queen, or salted caramel ice cream at Haagen-Dazs. Those are my two favorites. But I'm equal opportunity. I eat it all.
Good.
So we'll have to go celebrate over an ice cream at some point.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
Oh, my favorite's cookie dough.
Oh,
Cookie dough's a good choice too. I wouldn't throw that one away either.
yeah, that's always a good one. No, I think that yeah, she's enjoying the process, and for any parents that are out there, I would have to say your kids come up with some crazy ideas sometimes, and this idea just came up to us across the dinner table where Sarah said, "Why don't we just make a doll for all the kids and make them feel better?" And I think normally I probably would have said, "Well, that's like too big of a crazy, task to undertake. How would we ever do that?" And that kind of was my first instinct. And I thought, well, no, let's just think about it. Like, how could you actually do this? And whether or not you're successful or hugely successful, I think the measure of success is that she's learned the lesson. She's learned the process. She's taken an idea. She's gone through the steps. She's accomplished her goal, and now she'll be seeing the fruits of her labors next week. So I think anything that a child comes up with, and if they want to help out or do something, it doesn't have to be huge, just any small thing. Like we're just trying our best here, and any small thing will certainly help not only that child to learn the lesson, but help others that she is targeting to help as well.
Yeah, that's exciting, and it's especially exciting to see the end results of it, right? And see that you're making an impact. And I think when you get to see stuff from just a crazy idea that pops in your head and actually putting it into action and then seeing the results, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about next week.
Yeah, so time just flies. This show goes so fast. But if somebody's watching this show right now and they're thinking maybe trying to do something in their community, what would be your advice on that?
Do you have advice?
Yeah. Well, if you're an adult or a kid, there's always some way you can help.
That's great advice and very true. Because who would have thought when you first came up with this idea? Did you see it getting as big as it did?
Yeah.
Well, no. Did you think it would be as big as it is?
No, actually, not at all.
Yeah. No, it's we got so much support, and of course she's sitting here as one little girl, but the success comes from the support of the public, and it comes from people like you, Mike, that are kind enough to get her idea out there and her passions. And we're just very grateful that we can do this and we can help people and teach her the lesson of giving in the process.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful there's people like you out doing things that are selfless and giving back and helping others. And so I think what we should do, I'm in town for another week or so we should go meet for an ice cream at Dairy Queen or somewhere else, wherever you like. And then I am going to sponsor $50, and I'm going to encourage anybody else who's listening to seek you guys out and hopefully do the same, match that.
Oh,
Thank you.
goodness, thank you.
How does that sound? You guys used to have ice cream. It's all about the ice cream, I'll be honest with you.
Okay, well, we'll dig in right with you. That sounds fantastic.
So, any last words before we close out the show?
I just think we're just so grateful. Thank you for helping this little girl to get her vision out there. We appreciate it.
Well, I wish you continued success, and I know you're going to keep doing amazing things, and I just want to congratulate you again for what you've done.
Thanks so much, Mike.
My pleasure. So thanks again, TJ and Sarah Anderson, for being on our show, and thank you, the viewers, for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you again in another episode of Entrepreneurs Making a Difference.